Dolphins fans, what's going on? Ben Morgan, Fins Up Network. Lots to get to today in today's final Dolphins Bills Week 4 preview and prediction video. We're going to be hitting on the latest news, the latest injuries. We're going to hit on viewer questions that we accumulated throughout the week as well. But I don't have to tell you, not necessarily the importance of this game outright when it comes to wins and losses. We're 3-0. We've got a little bit of wiggle room. But I tell you what, when it comes time to really showing who's the best in the conference and who's the best in the division and in the NFL in general, there are a handful of games that we can put our stamp on and say, yep, that's us. We belong. This is one of them. This is one of them. The other game against the Bills is one of them. Against the Chiefs, against the Eagles. Those are the games that if you win and you have the record like what we do right now, no chance but to be taken seriously. I thought putting up 70 against the Bills would kind of do the trick. There's still people out there. There's still people out there that are questioning this team, questioning how consistent it can be. These are one of those games that where it's not must win, but if you can go ahead and get one of these wins on the road, this is our third road game in the first 4 weeks of the season. If we can get this one, no choice, absolutely no choice but to believe in the Miami Dolphins. Before I get into my final score prediction at the end of this video, I need to hear from you as well. So go ahead, drop your final score predictions. Let's load the comments up with a bunch of Dolphins wins, and let's see if someone can hit that score square on the head again. We'll start with the injury report. The full injury report can be found on the bottom scroll. The big news that you're going to see, Jaelan Phillips out with that oblique injury. So what does that mean? Well, that means obviously you don't want to enter a game without Jaelan Phillips, probably the team's best outright edge rusher. But what we saw last time, week 2 against the Patriots, when he was out, it was Andrew Van Ginkel basically almost playing exclusively on that edge rusher. And guess what? For my money, he was the player of the game that day. So if he can come in and fill those shoes, play with his hair on fire, play with the fire, intensity, and effort that he did against the Patriots, I think we'll be fine. But obviously, going into a game without your best edge rusher is not something that you want to do. We'll talk more about this throughout the video as well. De'Von Achane, Teron Armstead, Deshaun Elliott, Connor Williams, all listed as questionable. Teron Armstead did talk to the media on Friday, said he is good to go. He is going to be playing. So that means the biggest concern at this point in time, Connor Williams. We got to see if he ends up being active on game day. Because if history teaches us anything, is that Liam Eichenberg would be in line for those snaps at center. Liam Eichenberg is not the run blocker, not the pass blocker. And despite Connor Williams not being great at outright just snapping the ball, Liam Eichenberg didn't look all that promising doing it either. So that's something we gotta pay attention to. We don't want any more injuries on the offensive line. Obviously, Teron Armstead is back and healthy enough to be playing. We don't need Connor being out as well. So pay attention to that on Sunday morning. And then wrapping up the injury news, River Craycraft indeed did get put on IR today on Friday with the shoulder injury. And then Eric Azukamo was put on the team's reserve non-football injury list. Barry Jackson did report that there's potential that the neck injury that he has is tracing back all the way back to his days with Texas Tech as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. That does open up 2 roster spots for the Dolphins. Now, this is pure speculation, but based on what we've seen, guys getting called up from the practice squad in the past, the likely candidates, I would assume for those spots, Robbie Chosen, Cameron Good. So let's keep an eye on that as well. Let us dive into the questions. We got a lot of good ones today. I'm going to get through as many as possible. The first one's coming in here. What extra work strategy do the coaches put into place? Do they put into place to help protect Tua from quarterback hits, sacks, potential injury? I've talked about this a little bit before, even I think it was the preseason, but in case you're new to the Fins Up Network, this may be new information to you. I cannot stress enough the importance that the weekly meetings that Tua, Mike McDaniel, and Vic Fangio have been having basically throughout the offseason, and they've carried into the regular season. Tua, and granted, he's been around for a little while now, but you're getting him around offensive mastermind like Mike McDaniel, and then you're getting Vic Fangio in there to kind of pick that brain and show him things as well. Quite honestly, those meetings alone, there's things that they're doing schematically to help Tua in the pocket, get the ball out quick. All that's good and great, but these meetings, which, like I said, it's not necessarily out there quite as much, being talked about as much, those I cannot stress the importance of those enough. So that's been a huge thing that's kind of flown underneath the radar here. Next question. Would a regular rotation between Phillips, Chubb, and Ogba help the pass rush? And then a second question as well. Does Greer or McDaniel deserve more credit with the success on the offensive line? Let's start with the first one first, obviously. So Jalen Phillips isn't going to be part of that situation this week, but let's just do the hypothetical when he's healthy. The thing I would say to that is that pass rushers kind of can be streaky. They can hit hot streaks. They can kind of get sacks in bunches. That's not an uncommon thing. So it's not necessarily that you want them off the field when they're in the zone, when they're feeling that. When they've been on the field setting up moves, they kind of want to play those moves off each other later and do something different based on a move they showed. With that said, I don't think there's anything wrong with some sort of rotation. And we've seen that a little bit. So I don't mind a rotation, but I think the original question was like each guy getting like 2 out of 3 plays. I think that might be a little bit too much of an aggressive rotation. But like I said, a rotation at some level is fine because of the guys we have. Because when it is those 3 guys that are healthy, and then you got Van Ginkel healthy as well, you want those guys on the field and to be fresh. So a rotation, yes. An overly aggressive rotation, that's maybe where I would draw the line. In regards to the offensive line credit, I would say that Greer maybe gets the credit as to not spending unwisely this offseason on maybe a guy like Mike McGlinchey, because we've seen Austin Jackson just really step up his play this year. But in regards to who gets more of the credit, I absolutely have to give that to Mike McDaniel. The scheme that he has, the protections that he's drawn up, the plays that are allowing our receivers to get down the field in a hurry while still Tua getting the ball out faster than anyone in the league. You got to give that scheme. You got to give that protection. All of that credit has to go to Mike McDaniel. We're already seeing other coaches say, well, Mike McDaniel, they're calling it like the cheat motion. And like, that's what even Shanahan is saying. And we're already seeing other teams use it. He is revolutionizing the way offenses are being run already through 3 weeks this season. So I have to give the majority of the credit to Mike McDaniel in this situation. Let's go on to this one. What's the best route to attack the Buffalo Bills defense? Josh Allen gets all of the talk, but the Bills have the number 2 defense. Yeah, if you look at what the Bills have done, so obviously they had the disappointing week 1, but the last 2 weeks they allowed 10 points and 3 points. Granted, it was the Raiders and it was the Commanders, offenses that aren't necessarily thriving right now, so we have to take that into account. But 13 points over the last 2 weeks is pretty damn impressive. So strategy-wise, my answer is a little bit cliche, but I think it rings true in this sense. It's that you got to have that balance. If you think about the game we played kind of in that snow last year in Buffalo, Raheem Mostert was running everywhere. I think most fans wanted more runs in that game. There were some like 3rd and short, 2nd and short, 4th and short situations where we sort of abandoned it, but it was working. It was working every single time. So I think that balance is going to be huge, which is good because we've seen a lot of balance so far this year. But when you have that balance and when you have the Bills that are kind of trying to take away those deep shots more often than not, and Jordan Poyer is out of this game. He's not going to play for the Bills. So what that tells me is when you have an opportunity to hit a deep shot, when you have an opportunity to expose that and get chunk yardage, you got to take advantage of that. And those situations were there last year too. Jaylen Waddle in both games. In the first one in Miami, we hit like a 3rd and 20 to him, basically that put us inside like the 5-yard line. You got to hit a shot like that. Then he had the other one where I think Hamlin was coming in coverage. Tua hit Waddle over the middle. Waddle makes angles evaporate. He makes them literally disappear. Waddle housed it for that long touchdown. You got to connect on your deep shots when you have them. You got to expose that when you get the opportunity. Let's talk a little bit about our defense here. Is our defense capable of keeping us in this one, possibly being the reason we win? I'd love to say yes, but we're not. We don't have Jalen Phillips. We still don't have Jalen Ramsey, obviously. I do think Vic Fangio has a strategy to keep the Bills' offense maybe at least somewhat in check. It is still a very explosive offense, the Bills' offense. It's still an offense that scares me. But quite honestly, if we're going to win this, I think the offense has to get it done. I'll put it this way. I'll make this one a little bit shorter. I have more confidence saying that if we win a 3-point game, it's more likely that both teams are probably in the high 20s, 30s than both teams being in the teens. So, yeah, I'd love our defense to show out. I don't think we're going to get completely just it's not going to be up and down boat race and both offenses just crushing it the entire time. I don't think it's going to be that, but I think it will be on the offense to probably win this puppy. All right. How do you see Vic Fangio utilizing our personnel to stop the Bills when it comes to Josh Allen scrambling and hitting the tight ends? I kind of combined this. You'll see there's two people that asked this. But like I said in the live stream for the first preview video this week, when you're running off the edge, you've got to almost kind of control rush the passer there. And what I mean by that is you can't come flying around the edge and just overrun Josh Allen and let him escape the pocket that way. You have to get a good jump, but you got to contain that edge. But then the pressure up the middle is where it is. Raekwon Davis, Christian Wilkins, Zach Sealer. We're going to need that pressure up the middle. And then also you're going to need a good game from your linebackers because now we're a little bit thinner, moving Andrew Van Ginkel potentially just to the edge. So a guy like Jerome Baker and David Long, they're going to be asked to, whether it's spying Josh Allen, dropping back into coverage to take away Kincaid and Dawson Knox. Those could be very important things to pay attention to here. So I think you really need to utilize your edge rushers to kind of set up, but then you got to get that pressure up the middle on Allen. You got to get your hands up. You got to get in his face because like we talked about in that first preview video, Allen's going to try to play hero ball. He's going to rely on that right arm of his because he knows it's super strong, but that's where he can get into some trouble. That's where you can lead to some turnovers. All right, this question was, if Jaelan Phillips is out, who do we need to step out? Obviously, by now, we do know that Jaelan Phillips is out. We've talked about him, but it's Andrew Van Ginkel. That's the guy who's going to get the bulk of those snaps likely at edge rusher. But outside of that, kind of a sneaky answer is a guy like Emmanuel Ogbah. Because what happens if Chubb or Van Ginkel go out, or if they need a breath and you need someone to rotate in? Well, Emmanuel Ogbah has stepped up pretty well the last week. He got the interception. He got a sack on Russell Wilson. Look for him, hopefully, as well. Like I said, these things, edge rushers can be streaky. The sacks can come in streaks. The big plays can come in streak. Andrew Van Ginkel and Emmanuel Ogbah would be my answer on that. Let's do one more here. I got a couple people that asked about the kicker situation this week. I summarized it as, is Jason Sanders on a short leash if he misses another kick or two? And then are the Dolphins looking for someone to replace Jason Sanders? So I hadn't heard about this one for a while, so I checked in a little bit today. Currently, the Miami Dolphins are happy with Jason Sanders. They're not currently looking. Now, misses a kick or two, especially if it's an important one, they wouldn't rule out the idea of revisiting that idea. The nice thing for Jason Sanders, though, the last couple of weeks in practice, dude has been money, including 50-plus yard field goals, money. He has been money in those. And I know that that's a big difference in an actual game kick, but his confidence right now is super high. Look at even this is weird to say, but his extra points. He kicked 10 extra points last week against the Broncos. Nailed them all. Very deep, very accurate down the middle. Now, I know when you're spotting up from 55, it's different than spotting up from 33. However, all of those kicks looked great. The coaches are super confident in him. The front office is, the coach or the players. They've all been super supportive. So as of right now, he's safe, but he's got to continue to maintain that high level of confidence. All right. Thank you to everyone once again for all of the questions. Like I said, I'm trying to get to as many each week while keeping the videos at a relatively reasonable length. Let's jump into that prediction. I've got the Miami Dolphins remaining undefeated, getting that road win, 34-28. Like I said, I think this is going to be a close one. I don't think it's one that we're necessarily going to have to rely on the defense to outright win it. Obviously, we got to hold them in check. But the time of possession, look at what the Bills did to us in week 3 or 4 last year. They killed us in time of possession. We statistically had no right winning that game. Well, I don't think it's going to be that big of a discrepancy, but if we can keep Josh Allen off the field a little bit, if we can get Raheem Mostert and De'Von Achane, I got it right. I said Achane instead of Achane. If we can get those guys going as well, it's really going to help limit and make those edge rushers and the defensive line in general for the Bills a little bit more timid. If they need to respect that run game, this passing offense has proven time and time again now that it's lethal. Number 1 in the league in passing offense, in rushing offense, in yards per game, in points per game. All we have to do is remain some level of balance here. And that, I think, is enough that no defense in the league right now, I think, can just outright say, we're going to hold Miami to 21. If we hold them to 21 and we score more than that, we're going to be fine. I don't even know if that's realistic right now. If we're clicking even somewhat, we're going to be able to score that much. So I've got them going over 30 again. I've got them outscoring the Bills. And yes, it probably will be another close one. We're going to need to take the old blood pressure medication. We're going to have whatever remedy you need to survive another close game. I would say get ready for it. But it's a huge one on the road at Buffalo. It's not going to be easy, in my opinion. I hope it is. In my opinion, though, it's not going to be easy. But like I said, let's hear from you. How you see it playing out, your final score predictions, go ahead, drop them in the comments. Let's get this win on Sunday. Dolphins will be back to recap the game when it's all said and done. But until then, Miami Dolphins fans, fins up.